welcome to the Blindfold Chess Podcast. Passing away in late 2023, International Master Jeremy Silman made a lasting impact on our game through his playing, his consulting, his writing, and his coaching. Born in 1954, Silman didn't start playing chess until he was 12, where he went to his first tournament, ending with a rating of 1068. In high school, Silman expressed to his guidance counselor that he wanted to go to Moscow University to study chess from the best players of the Soviet Union. Considering this was in the middle of the Cold War, this was not really an option. Instead, he joined the army, but lasted less than 3 months before being discharged and going to San Francisco in 1973. 2 years later, at the age of 20, he earned his Master title. The next couple of years, his U.S. chess rating began to grow. 2,400 in 1980, 2,500 in 1981, where he tied for first at the U.S. Open, and he hit his peak U.S. chess rating of 2556 in 1982. By the mid-1980s, he experienced a rough time personally and financially. According to International Master Cyrus Lakdawla, quote, "At one time, he was a homeless man who miraculously transformed his life into the most successful chess writer of all time. His book, Reassess Your Chess, sold a staggering 350,000 copies, and he went from poverty to riches." End quote. Silman met his future wife in 1988, and after 2 months of dating, asked her to marry him. In an interview with the New York Times, Miss Feldman said she was unsure because the life of a chess player can be unstable, so she said that she would marry him only if he fulfilled the requirements necessary to become an international master. Later that year, he earned his final IM norm, and shortly thereafter, he and his wife got married. In 1990, he was the winner of the National Open. 2 years later, he was the winner of the American Open. Silman reached his peak FIDE rating in 1995 when he reached a 2420 rating. He never had an interest in trying to achieve his Grandmaster title. His last tournament was in 1999, but by that point he had started to phase himself out of tournaments, instead focusing on his writing and his coaching. He was the coach of the U.S. Junior National Team, as well as a columnist for Chess Life, New in Chess, and Chess.com. According to Chess.com, he wrote 481 articles for the website. Silman also went on to write a total of 39 books, selling over 600,000 copies, including Reassess Your Chess, Silman's Complete Endgame Manual, The Amateur's Mind, and The Complete Book of Chess Strategy. His success was predominantly in the United States, but his book has now been translated into French and German. Not only that, but he's also been a chess consultant on high-profile TV shows including Criminal Minds, Arliss, Monk, Malcolm in the Middle, and Harry Potter, though he is uncredited for his puzzle in the Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone movie. Unfortunately, Silman passed away in September of 2023 at the age of 69 from a form of dementia. Through his works in education, Jeremy Silman helped influence hundreds of thousands of chess players. Reassess Your Chess was given to me as one of my first chess books I've read, and Silman's Complete Endgame course was one of the first endgame books I enjoyed. In today's game, we are going back to 1991 to the Reno Open. Jeremy Silman versus James MacFarland. Now, if we're ready, let's begin.
One pawn to d4. Knight f6. 2. Pawn to c4. Pawn to e6. 3. Pawn to g3. Pawn to d5. 4. Knight f3.
This is the typical starting position of the Catalan opening. White is offering to sacrifice the pawn on c4, as well as trying to put their bishop on g2, so that way the bishop can have control over the a8 to h1 diagonal. Black has the choice of either letting that happen or closing it down by playing like pawn to c6 to keep that light-squared bishop out of play.
Bishop e7. 5. Bishop g2. Castle kingside. 6. Knight b to d2. Knight b to d7. 7. Castle kingside. Pawn to c6. 8. Queen c2. Pawn to b6.
From Black's perspective, on the previous move, they played pawn to c6. Now they're playing pawn to b6, which seems to undermine the c6 pawn. But what is the point of playing pawn to b6? Black is hoping to play bishop to b7 to provide support to the c6 pawn, the d5 pawn, and help contest the a8 to h1 diagonal.
9. Pawn to e4. Pawn d captures e4. 10. Knight captures e4. Bishop b7. 11. Bishop f4. Knight captures e4. 12. Queen captures e4. Knight f6. 13. Queen e2. Bishop d6. 14. Knight e5. Bishop captures e5. 15. Pawn d captures e5.
Why would white capture with the pawn instead of the bishop in this situation? While capturing with the pawn does block the dark-squared bishop out of play temporarily, white is attacking the black knight on f6, forcing it to relocate, as well as creating a very strong outpost where the pawn on e5 is controlling the squares d6 and e6.
Knight d7. 16. Rook f to d1. Queen e7. 17. Rook d6. Rook A to C8.
Black is trying to cover the weak spots in his camp that white is trying to exploit using the pawn on e5 as that leveraging point. If black were to try to break up that leveraging point with, say, pawn to f6, how should white respond? Since pawn to f6 is trying to weaken the white center, white should continue to support that strength by playing rook a to d1, which puts pressure onto the knight, and then later you can play either e captures f6 to try to exploit the e6 pawn, or you can let black recapture with f captures e5, and then white can play queen captures e5 and put tremendous pressure on the e6 pawn.
18. Rook A to D1. Knight B8. (19) Queen G4. King H8. (20) Bishop G5. Queen C7. (21) Bishop E4. Pawn to C5. (22) Bishop captures B7. Queen captures B7. (23) Bishop F6. Black resigns.
Bishop to f6 is such a cool idea because it doesn't matter if white has a bishop on f6 or a pawn on f6, the idea is still to provide checkmate on g7. So black could play pawn g captures f6, white will retaliate pawn e captures f6, threatening checkmate on g7. Black will play rook to g8 to stop the checkmate, and white can play rook to d8, which overloads the rook that's on g8. So even if black were to play rook c captures d8, white can play rook d1 captures d8, and now the black rook on g8 is pinned, and white has checkmate on g7 available. If you haven't already, please read any of Jeremy Silman's chess books. They're very easy to read, and they help restructure how you think about the game. So that is all that we have for this week. Tune in next time where we will continue to work on our blindfold skills and look at another game of the Masters.